Andy, thanks for the great introduction. So I actually want to talk about film distribution, specifically self-distribution, but I have a topic that may actually be even less popular than money and greed that I want to talk about, which is Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck is the self-distribution success story that nobody is talking about. After he was fired from Fox, he started GB-TV, which is his own station online where he puts up episodes every day, and people pay $10 a month for this privilege. And he has over 300,000 subscribers. That means that he's doing over $36 million in gross revenue annually, and he's doing it on his own terms. And I think that that's something that we can all kind of look to as an aspiration. Besides them, when we're talking about filmmakers self-distributing their films online directly to their fans, we're looking at inspiration from guys like Louis C.K., who in December 2011 did $1.2 million in a week, doing it on his own terms. And then I think something that people forget about too is Joss Whedon, way back in 2008, the Dark Ages, released Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog without the help of the studio system, and he did over $2 million in gross revenue in 2 weeks. And so this is not a new subject, it's just something that maybe the time is really starting to arrive. Indie Game the movie was an absolutely awesome film. I hope everybody here has seen it already, and if not, it is available online from their own website, which is powered by VHX. We did all of the design for this site. We powered it. We do the customer support. We get probably more emails saying, thank you, thank you, thank you for doing it like this than we do saying, I'm having trouble downloading this, and it's usually like, oh, did you try restarting your router? I think that what I love the most about this story and about working with James and Lisanne is that we were introduced by Andy Baio via Twitter when they had decided that they didn't want to go through the traditional studio system and they wanted to distribute directly to fans. And Andy said, oh, you should talk to these guys. And the traditional studios, they were telling me it was going to take 2 years before anybody was going to see the movie. Andy introduced us over Twitter. 10 days later, the site was up. This is... So before we worked with Indie Game, we had the pleasure of working with Aziz Ansari on releasing his comedy special direct to fans. He was also heavily inspired by Louis C.K. And we got to work with him. It's a really hilarious comedy special, and you can buy it directly from his website. It's not censored, which is a big deal because he actually sold it to Comedy Central afterwards. And it's 20 minutes shorter, and all the curse words are censored. And so for the weeks leading up to the release of it on Comedy Central, Aziz was promoting on his Twitter, hey, I'm going to be on Comedy Central in a couple weeks. Oh, but you can buy it on my website right now. Worldwide. You don't need a TV. You can do whatever you'd like with it. And so it wasn't that long ago that you maybe can't see, this is a video store. And this was the state of the art. This was how we got movies. And the experience was, I always thought was really fun. I love to go to the video store and I'd talk to the clerk and I'd be like, hey, what do you think I'm going to rate 5 stars? And I'd shop around and you look at all of the poster art and you can't really preview anything, but maybe you've heard of something, maybe you haven't, you just kind of randomly pick whatever the most popular title is and you go home and you watch it and you rinse and repeat. And I also had cable and it was just a different time. Now we are living in the future. This is a still from 2001: A Space Odyssey, made in 1968, where he is eating space food and reading his iPad. This is the reality of today. The internet is really so fundamentally changing how we all interact with each other and how creators interact with their audiences. But the problem is that we are living in the future and the big studio system is living in the past. This is Jack Valenti, who's the head of the Motion Pictures Association of America, testifying in front of Congress in 1982 and comparing people making bootlegs at home to murdering filmmakers. And this is the kind of absolute fear that this industry has of change. Casey Pugh, Chad Pugh, Michael Eads over here with us, the team at VHX, we come from the internet. We're internet people, and we sort of have those expectations of how things work. And the film industry is something that operates on just a completely different standard of behavior. It's as bad as the music industry, it's as bad as the video game industry, and it's so exciting to have XOXO is existing to sort of highlight all the things that are happening in each of these spaces. How many people here don't have cable? And then have you guys used AirPlay? Like your Apple gizmos? AirPlay? Love it, right? It's the CEO of Time Warner Cable. What's AirPlay? I guess this is a direct quote. And so this is an industry that's out of touch with its audience. This is an industry that the transition from VHS to DVD to Blu-ray, that's pretty easy. That's physical media. But this transition from physical goods to digital distribution, to entire new ways of reaching and communicating with audiences, they are not doing a good job. The internet, it just works differently. It's not a video store. We don't find out about things by going to the store and browsing around and just sort of like grabbing the first title that looks good or whatever is most popular. We find out about things through social recommendations. We find things through search. And maybe more importantly, we don't just hear about it after it's all done and we're seeing a huge billboard for it. We are fundamentally sort of involved in the entire process. And Netflix, iTunes, these things are modeled on video stores. If you think about it, they want you to, oh, I'm going to watch a movie. I'm going to open up iTunes. I'm going to browse around. I'm going to pick the one that's like the most popular, that's featured or whatever. And this just isn't how we find stuff now. And James and Lisanne were sharing with us that on iTunes, Indie Game was heavily, heavily featured. And you'd think that that would be sort of the big win of being on iTunes, is that they're driving just a huge audience to you. But they did just as well on their own website, selling it themselves, DRM free. People preferred that. And even though that was basically just them and us, you know, promoting it and trying to talk about it, it did just as well as this quote-unquote powerhouse. This is, oh, sorry. The big studios are, and the traditional film distribution model is fundamentally built around the idea of restriction. They want you to watch it only in their movie theaters. Like a movie is only available in one movie theater's chain. A TV show is only available on one channel. And the way that the film process works is that you go shop your film at a festival and you find somebody who buys it, and they buy it in the United States, and they'll only do the United States, which is strange to begin with, because regions, DVD regions, is just this alien concept. And then that's kind of the end of the filmmaker's relationship with their film. They sell it to the distributor, and then the distributor kind of takes care of the rest of it, and they can do whatever they'd like with it, or rather they can do whatever they don't like with it, because so often somebody sells a movie and it just never sees the light of day. And this is such a frustrating process for the filmmaker, and it's bad for the consumer, and these are the things that we believe should change, because the new system is about openness. You know, the internet is about sharing, it's about trust, it's about respect. Gary Vaynerchuk has this great book, talks about the customer service economy, that the internet is really bringing us back to the days of the mom and pop shop, because of the fact that if you have bad service, everybody's going to know about it. And so it is so, so important to be involving people in that process and treating them fairly. And a $15 iTunes purchase, that's the same price as a DVD. Like, I'm not stupid. I know it's cheaper. A rental, I find the concept of rentals almost offensive, a digital rental, because the one time that I rented something on iTunes, I fell asleep partway through. I woke up in the morning and my rental had expired. And you know, I didn't buy it again. I tweeted about it. And this is what we need to be thinking about. So the internet is awesome. And I would say that these are kind of the three big steps in making pretty much anything. But in making a film, you start with your financing. You have Kickstarter is just crushing it. Yancey, Perry, the whole team, God bless you guys. Production, we have Final Cut Pro. We have cheap DV cameras. This is getting a lot better. The costs are all coming down. But with distribution, it's like only so-so. Like Netflix, iTunes, these kinds of things. Ultraviolet, have you guys heard about Ultraviolet? Like the efforts by the studios and the efforts by the startups that are working with the studios are just not moving fast enough, and they're not keeping up. And XOXO is fundamentally about how people doing it on their own terms with the creative freedom works. And if there's one thing that you walk away from this talk with, I want you to believe, like we do, that self-distribution works. You can make enough money to get by. You know, and it's not about greed, but it is important to be making enough cash to fund your next project, you know, to be buying potatoes. I love potatoes. And this is the revolution, it's coming, and the revolution is coming because of social media. I think fundamentally it's because the cast and crew of the film have as many eyeballs and have as many audience members as any distributor could ever hope for. And way more importantly, those fans are way more deeply engaged, and even beyond that, they carry on from one project to the next. It's not like buying a billboard where it's like, oh, I'll go see movie X. It's, I love this filmmaker, I love this person. And it's like what Dan Harmon was saying, you know, the internet is made out of people. The internet is people. And that's the most important thing, and it's really all about sort of creators establishing a brand and establishing an identity on the web and using that to promote their work. And 4 years ago, 5 years ago, this was a different game. Now, you know, the success and popularity of Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, Vimeo, all these sites is really lending itself so that the creators are just as influential as the studios ever were. So I had 3 Adam Savage is speaking later. I'm really excited. So I wanted to bust some myths. I think we all understand this, that people will, in fact, pay for things online. Breaking news. And there's traditionally just been such like a slow and unwieldy process for paying for things, and it hasn't been great, but the App Store, like, I just open my wallet in a second, it's no problem. Kickstarter, I'm delighted to fund things, and I think that Dan Provost and Tom touched on it on their first talk yesterday, where it's really this question of like knowing where your money is going. Like, I'm delighted to overpay for goods because I know that it's like going into the creator's pocket. It's not, I'm not buying from Apple, I'm buying from Aziz Ansari. And this is a feeling that we want to tap into. The numbers are there. Self-distribution works. Louis made 1.2 million in a week. Aziz made 6 figures his first day. Glenn Beck is doing 36 million annually. It works. This is the other question that we get all the time. Self-distribution, traditional distribution are mutually exclusive. It's like either I go internet or I go traditional, and there's not a lot of in between. But that's not really how this works. We see direct-to-fan distribution for films as a great substitute for DVDs, for DVD sales, home video sales, and that's always just been one part of the distribution pie. Like, filmmakers still very much want their movies to be in theaters. They still, you know, can get their movies on TV. All these things are still totally options, and even though the old system is terrified of the digital bit of it, it works because Glenn Beck, just 3 days ago, sold his online streaming show to Dish Network. So on top of the 36 million annual he's making directly and still retaining all of his rights, he's now making 16 million a year from Dish Network, and he's planning to sell it to more people. So we need to start hustling. Louis sold his special to FX after he did the direct-to-fan distribution, and like I mentioned, Aziz sold his special to Comedy Central afterwards. And I think that especially as we start to get more of a toehold in the space, we will be able to have more influence and sort of dictate the terms. Like, it's tough for a filmmaker to cut a deal right now where they say, oh yeah, let's do like a theatrical deal, but I'm gonna hold on to my digital rights and hold on to my website rights, because the traditional model has always been like, filmmakers don't get to say what they want. But this is changing. And this is the big one that we hear. This works for Louis C.K., but it doesn't work for anybody else. I only have 3,000 followers, and Louis got a zillion followers. But I think that, once again, James and Lee San are really paving the way with this, with Indie Game the Movie, where there's 2 independent filmmakers from Canada who went about building a brand, building an audience, the same way that everybody on the internet has been doing this for so long. You hoof it. You get out there, you're open, you're transparent, you make good work, you communicate with your audience, and your audience will respond. And there's a loyalty there that really is so amazing to see in action. And it's this 1,000 true fans. It's all these things that we know. You don't need to be famous, you just need to work. So if I can leave you, this is my final slide. I think I'm probably running very early, but I would like to say a few more things. Here's what we need to do. Filmmakers, James and Lisanne excluded, you already did this, need to take risks. They need to think long-term about audience building, long-term about retaining the rights to their work. They need to stop thinking short-term about, boy, I'm 100 grand in the hole. I need to sell the distribution rights here because I just need to get back to zero. And I totally understand that. I sympathize with that heavily. But it is a mistake to just sell your rights without thinking about your options and your alternatives. And for VHX, for us as a company, I think that our biggest challenge over the next year, over the next 5 years, is really just spreading awareness that there are alternatives, that self-distribution can work, that Glenn Beck is just rich now on his own, right? This is the lesson. Oh, man. Sorry. I don't. And then, so for filmmakers, it's take risks, right? Like, jump in the pool. This works. You can do this. We're here to help you. And that's what we want to do as a business. We want to help people. We have been on the internet for a long time. We feel like we understand the internet audience. We are the internet. And we want to help work with filmmakers to design, host, have great customer service, do a good job marketing it, and then as much as we possibly can, help to establish those relationships so that they can get it on TV, they can get it into movie theaters, they can do independent screenings, they can go to festivals and do cool things. But there's probably not very many filmmakers in the audience, and so I have another homework assignment for the fans, and it's up to us to open the wallet. This stuff is people are going to release more films directly. They're going to do it DRM free, but only as much as I can walk into that room with them and say, look at how much money you're going to make. You're going to do it because all the people in this room are going to pay for that movie. Like, how many people watched Indie Game last night? You know, just go buy it. You know, don't buy it because you want to watch it again. Go buy it because these guys are great. They did a great job. They should be rewarded for doing a great job. And, oh, P.S., you can also watch it as much as you want. It's not a rental. So please, that's all I got to say. Go buy Indie Game the Movies. Awesome movie. It's probably the best documentary I've seen all year.